Howdy everyone, welcome back. Today, we're going to do a little historical video with FTD, kind of showing what we've been doing. If you haven't watched the build videos, I know there's a long, arduous, so these kind of are video showcases. But if you're just here for the history, just watch the start of it, and from the death stuff will really get talked about at the end of the video, so you can just leave then. But this will be a pretty good guide on early war, Cold War frigates. So, not the American definition of a frigate at the time, which was a destroyer leader, but the rest of the world's frigates and what we'd call destroyer escort in the United States. So let's begin. First would be the Japanese with the JDS I'm gonna suck at this Acarbono. It was laid down in December 10th, 1954, and launched October 30th, 1955. It was commissioned in March 20th, 1956. This does push my timeline. I was just doing 1945 to 1955 frigates, but this one is so close to our timetable, plus some other ships were very close in this timetable, so we're counting it. It was armed with two 3-inch 50 caliber guns and two twin 40mm guns. Decent AA armament gave you, and the 3-inch gun was decent enough to go against submarines. It had a Hedgehog anti-submarine mortar, classic World War II American and British origins. Put on a lot of American ships to destroy escorts. Good for hunting subs, just throws out the little depth charges. 8 depth charge throwers in K guns, and 1 depth charge rack on the tail. They only made one of these, so that's why I didn't say class name. But that is all I have for you for that one. Now, on to France. France built the Le Corsa class frigate. The builder was Arsenal d'Orlante, Brittany, France, made in Brittany, France, laid down March 1952, and launched August 8th, 1952. Commissioned April 23rd, 1955. Now, she was 99.8 meters, or 327 feet, with a beam of 10.3 meters, or 34 feet, and a draft of 14 feet 1 inch, or 4.3 meters. She could go 27 knots. She had 3 twin model 1951 57mm L60 guns and 2 Mark IV 20mm Oerlikons. Plus, old classic mortar system. If you ever worked outside the United States, you'll probably recognize this. The Bofors 6-tube 375mm ASW rocket launcher. And she was armed with 4 550mm triple torpedo tubes. She had 2 depth charge launchers and 1 depth charge rack. The British, during this time, would build one class as well. This would be the Whitby class frigate. In commission, 10th of May, 1956, which is, again, on the late end of our timetable here, as post World War II, there wasn't a big drive to build new ships, as a lot of nations had already built quite a few ships during the war. It was armed with one of our heaviest armament today, a twin 4.5-inch gun Mark VI, that upper deck mount you saw on the Daring class destroyers. One of those. 1 twin 40mm Bofors Mark II STAAG. 2 Limbo anti-submarine mortars, so pretty good. That I forget when those went out of service, but it was much later. I think in the 80s or something they stopped really using them, but those things were kept for some years. And it was also armed with 12 21-inch or 5.33mm anti-submarine torpedo tubes. But they were either removed or never shipped. They didn't keep them. Alright. They made the Dealey class destroyer escort, that's kind of a more famous one, built in 1952 to 1957, in commission 1954 to 1994. Their length was 314 feet 6 inches, with a beam of 36 feet and 9 inches, and had a draft of 18 inches. In a metric, that is 95.86, 11.2 meters, 5.5, and 5.5 meters, respectively. She was not the fastest ever, 25 knots. But she did have an armament armed with 4 3-inch guns and notably
classic,
a weapon alpha,
average
which is
30
an
cal,
earlier version of the more famous airsock.
To armament.
This was, again, if you don't know what airsock is, rocket propelled.
Her main thing was a weapon alpha.
Anti-submarine.
That was her main improvement over previous destroyer
that launched a Mark 46 torpedo.
So that they have a ship that was.
I don't know if they did it in weapon alpha, but in the actual airsock, they launched a Mark 46 torpedo out.
That wasn't a big old Norfolk class.
It had four 21. Also had four 21-inch torpedoes and four
21-inch torpedo tubes. And
it also had two Hedgehog
anti-submarine mortars, two Hedgehog anti-submarine mortars on some ships. I could find that Jade had them. And she also had two K-gun and Death Star throwers. For the last three, for any other nations that we can think of, did not produce any kind of frigate or destroyer escort of the type between 1945 and 1955. They may have received some, but none were built under that specification. So that concludes just the historical part. We went over, so there's only really 4 classes of frigates that was built during that time, which was the Dealey, the Whitby, the La Corsa, and the Akibio. And the Akibio was a single ship. It was the first ship Japan ever built after the war, but it still was one ship. Well, this finishes, kind of wraps up our historical section, being that is all the facts I had for you on these 4 frigates. Not the longest thing ever, but a good intro. Now, on to my frigate of design of the era. This frigate was laid down in a little bit earlier for these frigates, so late 40s, 1945 to 1947 to 1950 was the years these ships were commissioned into service. You would see, so this is kind of how you see, they were built more as an air defense picket ship than ASW. So it got armed with 4 twin 3-inch guns, so a lot more 3-inch guns than her peers of later on, but she was also expected to be fighting with our systems and did not have those more advanced anti-submarine weapons to fight with. Now, she isn't anti-submarine completely useless. She does have depth charges and a limbo type mortar type equipment. She also has 4 twin 40mm guns, but there's not much else to bring up on her. She fits the area well enough, a bit heavily armed, but does the job. Now, she does have, now, in the 50s, another frigate would come into service, which would be the Walkman class. The Walkman class was definitely different, being that it was armed with a weapon alpha type weapon, and it was much more of an ASW focused, as it could be, but kept an AAW ability. She was armed with 2 5-inch guns, 5-inch 56 caliber guns, and armed again with 4 twin 40mm guns. But in this arrangement that she was armed in, they could put 3 guns per broadside. She was also armed with the experimental 20mm miniguns as close in defense for anti-boats and anti-torpedo boats and stuff like that. But these both kind of reflect early Cold War ability, but are bigger than their actual peers, being that Dealey was 95 meters and Walkman is 116 meters. So you can see that about 20 meters was gained on Walkman over an actual Dealey class, and about 10 meters Haraz over a Dealey. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. This was a fun video to make. It doesn't take that long. It took a little bit long to get the facts, and then getting new microphone if you can't hear. Got a nice new microphone. We're working with that. I hope you guys enjoy. I'm gonna make more of these historical videos, but I also have to build a ship so you can see them. So I hope you enjoyed this session of me ranting about early Cold War frigates. I'll definitely later on do a mid-Cold War frigate video, so that'll be 55 to probably 65.
and then we'll do a 65 to 75, and probably then 75, 85, and then probably an 85 to 2000. I don't know if I'll have some good for those last two videos. I don't know if I'll have that many designs thrown up. Those might become much later. But the 55 to 65 and the 65 to 75 videos should come out sooner. I'm not giving you a timetable because I obviously cannot give you timetables. That is impossible. But hopefully you guys like this, and tell me if you guys want to see more of these videos. I don't mind making them. I like doing the research. So yeah. I if you guys want me to put more information in them, like if you want me to go through each ship more individually, we can do that. I do have a more in-depth video on Dealey, comparing it to an older design of mine. But this was much more of just a starting as a historical video, and then I put in some front of the depths just because that's kind of what my channel's about, showing history, but also reflecting history via giving designs that could actually exist, but didn't exist. These ships just show that they are they're bigger than their real life competitors. But that's explained via that these were both wartime designs. Well, this was probably designed. Walkman was designed during the war, but would be commissioned post-war. And Hara here was a full-time wartime frigate, as events in the place where they come from, didn't see the war ending until 1954. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good one. I'm out.